Hello students, my name is Prerna and I'm your EVS teacher. And today from your EVS book Enviro, we are going to be reading the next unit and the next chapter. So let us start reading it. So this is unit 3 and the title of the unit is Food and Things We Make and Do. And the first chapter, which is originally chapter number 10 of your book, the name of the chapter is Food for Plants and Animals. So we're going to talk about how plants and animals get their food. All living beings have many similar qualities. They all need, what are these similar qualities? They all need food, water and air. Animals and plants eat different types of food, so they get their food in different ways. So now we first talk about food for plants. Plants need various nutrients for their growth and development. They absorb these nutrients from the soil through their roots. Sometimes fertility of the soil gets depleted because of certain factors. Gets depleted, the word depleted means something that gets ruined, something that loses its quality. To maintain the level of fertility of the soil, manures and fertilizers are added to the soil. What do plants need to make food? We know that plants are found all over the world. They are found in water, land and sea. We find some in cold regions and some in dry, hot regions. The plants in different regions have different requirements according to their surroundings. Sunlight for plants. Trees generally grow straight and tall in the forest because there is a competition among them to reach higher to get the sunlight. They can grow tall only when they grow straight. Creepers and climbers have developed long tendrils. They twine around a support to climb it. They climb upwards on the trunk of the trees to reach the sunlight. Then you have water for plants. So now we've talked about sunlight, now we're talking about water. In deserts, we do not find trees because that is a very dry place with little water. It is very hot there during the day and cold at night. Roots of desert plants go deep to get underground water. So a common plant that you see in deserts is cactus. Plants lose water through pores of leaves, therefore the desert plants do not have any leaves. They store water in the spongy stem which has a thick covering and spines on it. Spines keep animals away from them, just like the case of the cactus. The stem is green and contains chlorophyll. And it is this chlorophyll which makes food for the plant. Now we talk about air for plants. Mangrove trees grow in swampy areas. The soil does not contain air. Their roots come out of water so as to get air. Leaves of floating plants bear stomata on their upper surface only, which are not blocked by water and remain open to exchange the gases, carbon dioxide, oxygen and other gases. So now we study about process of making food. Green plants also, like human beings, make glucose as food by the process of photosynthesis. This is the diagram of photosynthesis that I'm going to explain you. When the plants store glucose, this sugar is turned into starch. This extra food is stored in different parts of the plant. Plants stored in different parts of a plant which humans and other animals can eat. Plants get energy in the form of sunlight, carbon dioxide from the air, minerals and water from the soil to make their food. Only green leaves which have a pigment called chlorophyll can make their own food. Plants use the energy from food to grow and repair themselves. So it is through sunlight. So air, water and sunlight is what helps the plant to make food. And the process, of course, by which the food is made, it is called as photosynthesis. In warm weather, plants need a certain amount of water and sunlight and plenty of nutrients from the soil to grow and be healthy. People who grow plants, such as farmers and gardeners, regularly put manure to fertilize the soil and make sure that its supply of nutrients does not go down. So it is like you eat different kind of food on daily basis to keep yourself healthy. So maybe you drink milk, maybe you consume things like poha or maybe oats. Why do you do that? To keep yourself healthy. So for the plant to be healthy, proper soil is a prime requirement, and that is the reason that people who grow these plants, they ensure that the quality of the soil is very good. In winter, most plants find it difficult to make food because of lack of sunlight, and water is often frozen under the ground. At this time, there is less food making activity and stored food is used. Tree growth is greatly reduced at this time. Some trees also shed their leaves. Now we talk about plants that cannot make food. Plants that do not have chlorophyll cannot make their food. So like previously we read that only plants which have green leaves, only they can make food. The plants which do not have those green leaves, they cannot make food. And they are also called as non-green plants. Some non-green plants like dodder, certain mushrooms, mosses and certain fungi feed off other plants and animals. They are known as parasites. So they generally feed onto other plants. The plant or animal that they live on is known as the host. All right. Now we talk about insect-eating plants. These plants are known as carnivorous plants or insectivorous plants. So there are some plants which eat animal. Although these plants make their own food through photosynthesis, they grow in soil which is very poor in minerals like nitrogen, and they need to trap insects to get enough nitrogen for their needs. The Venus flytrap attracts insects into its jaws like a leaf trap by secreting nectar. So there are certain plants which have their own way of attracting a few insects that the plant can eat and use it as a food. Interesting, isn't it? Once the insect lands, the jaw clamps. So the example which is given here, the Venus flytrap, what it does, it opens like a jaw of a crocodile. And once the insect comes, it immediately closes and the insect is eaten. The jaws clamp shut out in less than a second. At once, the plant secretes juices that dissolve the insect. If the insect is too big, however, it often sticks out of the leaf, attracting bacteria and mold, which not only decompose the insect but also make the leaf rot and fill off. The hollow leaves of the pitcher plant, so you can see this pitcher plant, they are filled with nectar. Insects come to feed on this nectar. As they sit on the edge of the pitcher, the lid closes and the insect is trapped inside. The digestive juices of pitcher plant are so strong that it can dissolve a big chunk of meat within a few days. So you need to be careful with these plants. Sundew plants have a gel-like substance at the tip of the tentacles that cover the leaves. If an insect flies too close to this, it gets stuck and it is eaten. Next you have food for animals. So we've studied about food for plants. Now we study about food for animals. Animals cannot make their food like plants do. They depend on plants directly or indirectly. Hence they are called as consumers or heterotrophs. Depending on their food habits, animals are grouped as follows. So first is herbivorous, comes from the word herb, means those animals which generally eat plants and trees. You have examples of cows, camels, buffaloes, goat, deer. They generally eat the green leafy part. Then you have carnivorous animals who eat other animals, right? Lions, tigers, eagles, these are the examples. Then you have scavenger animals, animals that eat dead animals or leftover of animals hunted by carnivorous animals are called scavenger animals. Jackals, hyenas, and vultures eat the remain of dead or hunted animals. Now, then you have omnivorous animals which eat plants also, or who eat the animals also, right? So they are a combination of herbivorous and carnivorous. So these are called as omnivorous. What are the examples? Bear, dog, crow, etc. They eat plants as well as animals. The next thing that we will study about is the food chain. Now, why is that we have been saying save the environment, save the trees, save the animals? Why? We're going to talk about that in food chain. How one organism is dependent on the other organism, and this entire chain is very long. So if one organism in the chain is not there, how will this organism survive? And if this organism is not able to get its food, will this organism live for a long time? No. Then the next organism. So gradually everyone will lose their source of food. And can we live without food? No. Food chains are sequences of organism in which organism is food for the next. In each food chain, plants are the first to be consumed. So talking about why we need to save our environment in terms of plants or trees. For example, an insect is eaten by a frog. Frog is eaten by a snake, and the snake is eaten by eagle or a hawk. Now imagine there are no insects. What will frog eat? Can it eat anything? No. So what will happen to the frog living without food for such a long time? It will die, right? What does the insect eat? Plant, of course. Thus, we have a food chain. Food chains overlap since most organisms have more than one item on their menu. Also, one organism is often eaten by many other organisms. Food chains, they operate in water as well as land. So now you have zooplankton. So these are the examples of the food chain which is given here. And if you talk about land, so grasshopper, this plant is eaten by grasshopper. Grasshopper, which is an insect, is eaten by a frog. A frog is eaten by a snake, and a snake is eaten by a peacock. Now tell me again the same question. If one of these go, what would happen? The next organism in the chain will be in a big problem. I'll give you a small example. Let's say uh, so if we talk about this example only, let's say there is if there are no plants, what would the grasshopper eat? Maybe some other insect, but it doesn't eat that. It is dependent on plants only. So that is the reason we need to save the environment so that this food chain can go on, right? So in your higher classes, you will also study how man is generally, how a human being is at the end of the food chain. So for your survival, you need to let the other species also survive in a proper way. The food web. In community, very few animals eat only one type of food. For example, a tiger does not depend only on a deer for its food. It can eat many other types of animals like rabbits, cows, and sambar. Similarly, most foods are eaten by more than one type of animal. For example, grass, it is not only eaten by deer, it is also the food for cows, buffaloes, and elephants, and even horses. Thus, many interconnected food chain exist in a community. So these are all interconnected food chain. And the network of these interconnection of food chains is called a food web. For example, plants and plant products are eaten by man, by goats, rabbits. Goats and rabbits are eaten by man. all the three, rabbit, sheep, and man, are eaten by a lion. So you see how many food chains are coming together, and this forms a food web, right? So what I want all of you to ensure is to save your environment, and it is for our survival only that we keep on saying it. Thank you so much.